Almost a year ago now, one of my oldest friends asked me if I'd like to go to an Extinction Rebellion meeting that evening. They'd been on my radar for a while and I was keen to check them out. Had I known the level of confrontation and ego death I'd be experiencing over the next year, my casual, sure, why not, might have been run, go, flee, hide. That, however, was not to be. And I've spent much of the last year in despair. We've taken out 60% of the mammals that we share the planet with since 1970. Pakistan routinely dig mass graves at the beginning of the hot season. Now I know that I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that with 2 children on board, I need to maintain some kind of relationship with hope. So I began my search by reading Radical Hope, Ethics in the Face of Cultural Devastation by Jonathan Lear. In it, Lear describes the journey of Plenty Coups, the last great chief of the Sioux Nation. Ultimately, it's the story of how Plenty Coups bore witness to the devastation of the culture and way of life of his people. And ultimately, the question at the heart of Radical Hope is that of how we can psychologically equip ourselves to face cultural collapse and the meaning and significance of all we have been entrained to rest our happiness on. Enter Matthew Paynton, a coach I met in the Positive Deep Adaptation Forum, who's devised a quadrant to describe some of the ways that people are currently responding to all that is represented in the concept and reality of being in climate emergency. One axis has acceptance, death at one end, and resistance and activism at the other, and the other has transformation opposite transcendence. It's been just so helpful to me to have these processes even named, as I'm aware that I'm bumping into them in the world all over the place. And in the last year of my own heightened sensitivity amidst fires in the Amazon, the Arctic and Australia, and wide-scale flooding in the UK, I myself have had a whole variety of responses to all of these things. Some of them make me want to bang my head off the floor. I was so inspired by Matthew's model, however, I decided I wanted to refrain from banging my poor dear brain off the wall and get out of my head rather than injure it, and return to the resource that embodied spiritual practice has provided me for over 30 years. It is one thing to dance as though nothing has happened. It is another to acknowledge that something singularly awful has happened, the collapse of happenings, and then decide to dance anyway. I begin in the centre by calling in the 4 elements, my healers, teachers, guides and ancestors with my rattle. Once I feel their presence, love and support in my muscle and bones, I begin to move. I am drawn into the quadrant of transformation first, and here I find my need for hope amidst despair. I remember Julia Butterfly Hill's story about being high in the canopy of an ancient redwood, which she and other activists were trying to protect. This was a day when loggers had deliberately felled a redwood, killing one of her fellow earth defenders in the process. She describes being in fetal position, hundreds of feet above the earth on her platform, being utterly bereft. She hears a voice saying to her, "As long as hope is alive in your heart, Julia, even if yours is the last heart beating, hope is still alive in the world." I move into the quadrant of resistance and feel huge grief. In the place of transcendence, the same. Acceptance, however, is a place of both comfort and peace. Before long, though, I feel other things. My longing to be reintegrated into the deep, dark earth and at home again. I feel the love of the earth, but it overwhelms me. This is the dark, cloying place of the opium den, the sickly, sweet call to become a lotus eater. I'm pulled back into the depths of our dark, rotting composts, happy to be there. I can only leave by calling for help. Light fills my being, knowing everything exactly as it is. quickly followed by the joy of embracing all suffering with compassion. Kuan Yin is here. I come back to myself, my skin boundary, moving towards transcendence again, transformed swiftly into lioness, growling, protecting my turf with tooth and claw, my primal animal self rejecting transcendence with fierce snarls. I want to live, I want to be embodied, and I will fight to do so. I prowl over into resistance to meet the Amazon tribes, as fierce as jaguar, willing to fight and die for what we love. This is our land. Ferocious heart love for the beauty of immanence. Here I pray to be resourced from this place of power coursing through me in service. Seductive this power though, as the fire grows, burning bright with rage that begins to contort, distort, burn the forests burning, wildlife fleeing in its path. I move back to transcendence, but the smoke from the fires is choking me, and I see the earth's trees being felled for Bibles. I fall into the holy well at Glastonbury, feeling the peace and stillness of the great beyond. I feel my profound need for stillness as I am pulled back to resistance, where I am feeling my delicate nervous system completely overwhelmed by information load. All mind here, no body, hundreds of years of imbalance. I'm moving fast now, back to transformation. Hope is still here, along with connection, interconnection and divine timing. But the siren song of shadow yin is luring me onto the rocks. Choice, a voice calls. Choice! Moving to the centre again. I feel respect for resistance, balanced with awareness of its shadows, the projections onto the other, the violence, the protection, the potential for harm as well as protection. Feeling Kali rising through me as I move towards transcendence. 3,000 years of feminine rage. Fuck your transcendence and your churches and fatherlands. Fuck you all. We all know how socially acceptable that energy is. This is the destroyer. Don't tell me the divine feminine loves us so much she allowed the patriarchy. She was in a fucking coma and intensive care after a beating. But I'm not, motherfucker. That's a bit much, don't you think? Don't you think? All body, no rationality. Who says it's only the fatherland that drops bombs? You'll be seeing a lot of the rising feminine lads, and she's not coming dressed in lace and fucking lavender flowers. Know what I mean? Quick, call Yin, for goddess sake. Get this bitch out of here. Nothing to see here. Subsiding volcanic fury climaxes as I collapse into the loving arms of acceptance and a life well lived. Here too I am filled with trust. There is a rising synergy beyond what I can see now. Connections weaving as we travel into the unknown horizons. Big, hippie, clappy, happy ending. What is this? Hollywood? Hollywoods? Good God, set yourself free. I begin to move around, picking up pieces of paper, dispensing with concepts, archetypes today, in this present moment, back to centre, and I fall into the universe, through my body, inside, into the mystic.
We were born before the wind. We're so much younger than the sun. And every bonnie boat was one as we sailed into the mystic. How can I hear the sailors cry? Feel the sea and touch the sky. And let your soul and your spirit fly as we sail into the mystic. And when that foghorn blows, you know I will be coming home. And when the that falcon whistle blows. I wanna hear it. I don't have to feel it anymore. I got to be cold. Well, just like way back in those days.
Thank you for listening. Go well.